every day to the world and to your heart. Open up your eyes and let your spirit start. Say yes to the dreams you hold inside. Let your soul be your guide.
In today's complex mortgage world, finding the right direction can be challenging. That's where Lighthouse Advisors comes in. With over 25 years of experience, we provide fractional leadership and executive oversight, guiding companies through transitions, growth, and innovation. From IMBs to brokers to credit unions to tech firms, our team of seasoned professionals is here to shine a light on solutions, ensuring your business thrives in every environment. At Lighthouse Advisors, we don't just guide, we empower. Together, let's create a ripple of success across the industry. Email us today at laura@lighthouseadvisors.com. Thank you for joining us today for another episode of Wednesday Wisdom. Today, we are in for a treat because we have the incredible Brian Covey. He is the divisional SVP at Cross Country Mortgage. Brian, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy and hectic schedule to be here with all of us. And, on Wednesday Wisdom, the whole crux of what we do here is we want to hear from everyone something that you learned, something you witnessed, something that you experienced, a piece of advice or that you watched that really made a monumental change in your life, in the direction and how you apply it. So what would be that special piece of wisdom that you would like to share with all of us?
Oh, first off, thanks for having me, Laura. So this is always an honor, and getting to have this conversation with you and make an impact on people. Just share throughout my journey, because it's now 20 plus years. And I look back and there's been lots of mentors and leaders in my life, but there's one after 07 and 08. And those of us that were in that market remember everything changed like overnight in 08. And we had our first two kids, Presley and Davis. We were in Florida, and I'll never forget, our divisional came in, Cliff Rohn, and he shared this piece of advice. And we're all, if you can imagine, in a boardroom, we're all together and we're trying to figure out, like, what do we do next? What's happening? Like, what are the changes, right? And you've got layoffs happening, you have companies shutting down. I was still at Wells at that time. And Cliff shared this statement and really kind of quote and mantra that stayed with me. And it goes like this: you can act your way into a better way of feeling a lot faster than you can ever feel your way into a better way of acting.
Wow.
What he's basically saying is you have to take action, guys. Like, the market's uncertain. Things are out of your control. You're probably feeling a little bit helpless, a little bit down. You're having to lay off people. You're not sure if your job's even stable. You're wondering where your next customer's coming from and all that goes. You can wait on the sideline and hope that you feel like calling people, taking an action, doing something, or you can take an action, and that action is going to move you forward. And that is stuck with me because, Laura, like, there's been seasons since then, right? I mean, now, gosh, 15 years later, and you go, the market's different, but we have to act. Those that do not act, I always say this: imagine you're playing on a sports team. I love soccer, right?
Yeah.
But imagine you just put yourself on the bench and you told the coach, like, hey, I'm not ready to play today. I'm going to wait till I feel like it. No athlete would ever do it, but yet in business, we allow ourselves to self-impose timeout, like on the sideline. And so I say, get in the game, get off the bench. Nobody's going to invite you to do it. You have to invite yourself and get out there and compete. And then from there, that's where you start to feel better. That's where you create momentum. And so thankful that had guys like Cliff and many others that shared wisdom.
What brilliant wisdom. It's absolutely incredible. And as you're speaking about that, I love the analogy of a child learning to walk. Could you imagine if a kid was like, nah, no, Dad, I'm just gonna hang out. I'm gonna continue to crawl until maybe when I'm 10. Maybe when I'm 10 years old, I might figure this out, or I might just, I'm just gonna stand by, right? To your point of, at least if we're doing something, at least if we're taking forward motion of any direction, you are not just sitting waiting for it to happen to you. You're being proactive. instead of reactive. And I'm thinking, my goodness, I can picture the room. Like we all went through that, right? We were all going through that. It's the fear of the unknown. We didn't know what else was going to happen. We knew the warehouse lines weren't buying the loans anymore. And we knew the investors were shutting down. And we knew that all of these changes were happening. And the fear, to your point, you can either just freeze in fear, or you could say, okay, I got it. And I'm going to make this forward motion. So what actually happened, Brian? Finish the story. I want to hear what happened after that.
Well, what we decided we would do is we would have to attack the market differently. And we all know there were short sales, there were foreclosures, there were things happening. And we knew this as we had a competitive advantage of we had the bank side and we were not, isolated in just being a mortgage company, which gave us an advantage. And what we looked at was there's going to be more companies shutting down, which meant recruiting would actually widen up. And so we thought about, okay, if we're all going to be competing over the same pie, who can we bring on that's going to get business? And then how can we help real estate agents? We pivoted and shifted. And we're like, we have to be able to help agents with short sales. Like none of us have ever really done this before. And then what are these people doing? Well, you got to remember, these are customers. And so remembering the customers at the center of everything and going, yes, some of them might need a short sale or foreclosure, but someone needs to guide them through that and say, you know what? At some period of time, you're going to be a buyer again. And it's how you treat people through those seasons, both your team members and also your customers. That's where we just center our attention, is like every conversation mattered, every opportunity mattered. We just said we would show up, and we started doing seminars, webinars, anything we could do to get in front of people to educate. And much like we talk about today, is if you're in front of them before anyone else and you're the best known in your market, they will start to refer you. And we were just going to compete after whatever business was there. Yeah. And that was the decision. And we all know, unfortunately, there were a lot of layoffs, and that part sucked. But it also gave you perspective of, we've all got to figure out where we can add value throughout our career, where we can go, and always just to remember, every season doesn't last forever. Yeah. The good ones and the bad ones.
And we all know, right? It seems like when you're in a negative cycle, you think, oh my goodness, this is going to last forever. But to your point, it's the same thing when the good cycles come. We know that's not lasting forever either. So to your point, right? Now, a lot of what you just spoke about, I heard many years ago, and this always resonates with me, that what is the number one trait for success? And it's actually adaptability. Yeah. And what you have just been speaking about is being able to navigate and change to whatever cycle or whatever is happening before us. So with that, okay, let's speak about adaptability and leadership. Okay. We know that it's ever changing. Honestly, right now, you wake up and you don't know what's happening. Every day is a new day, and could be a new opportunity or it could be a new challenge. We want to know from you, with the adapting that you've done throughout your entire career, what was one of those pivotal moments in your career where adapting quickly made all the difference?
Oh, well, I'll tell you, it's been now almost 8 years. And it was the first time I got really serious about investing in a coach. Okay. And it was one where my recruiting was up and down. Even when I would have success, Laura, it would be at times people that I didn't enjoy working with, but it might have just been, they're doing a lot of production, or we need to fill a seat in a market. And like, I'll be the first one to admit, like I was almost in a way forcing results, right? Forcing results. Like, if I just do enough, I'm going to get people. And what you'll find when you're doing that sometimes is you look up and you go, hold on, I haven't really recruited intentionally. I haven't built a team intentionally. And you look up and you're like, man, this is not the team I envisioned. And people aren't collaborating together. They're not performing well together. Like there might be some dissent and things with operations and sales. And we know that relationship has got to be one that's fully functioning and performing well. And so I remember reaching out, actually had 2 coaches during the season. And I'll tell you just a brief thing about both. One was I wanted to learn outside of the mortgage business. And so I reached out to a coach, and he was mainly married businessmen with kids. And I'm just curious, like, how are these entrepreneurs balancing? Like at that time, we had just had our 3rd child. Yeah. And I'm like, how do people do this? Like, we're pulled this way, we're pulled that way. We got this, we got businesses over here. We've got life. We're trying to be healthy in our fitness and all this. And I'm like, I felt like I was like way underperforming. You know what I mean? I'd look around, I'm like, oh, I don't have this thing figured out at all. But I did know this is there were people that had gone ahead of me and had figured out parts of that, that if I got around them, it was the first time I really felt the power of proximity.
Yeah.
And so I was able to adapt and say, you know what? I'm not getting this in the mortgage space. Let's just be real. Like that's not usually, especially at that time, that's not what leaders in a mortgage company would talk about is protecting your peace, your values, your finances, right? Like your fitness. Like it just wasn't really talked about. So I sought that out, and I will tell you, pivotal moment because that changed the way that I approached how I led, which then led me to I had this same kind of thought process of if I'm not enjoying my recruiting, the only common denominator is this guy.
Yeah.
It's me. And at the time, I reread Extreme Ownership, Jocko Willink, Leif Babin.
Oh, yeah.
Huge book in my trajectory.
Oh, yeah. I know that one. I've read it.
Dude, it's me. Like, I'm the leader. I'm the one that's causing these problems. And I'm also the one that can figure it out. So I hired a recruiting coach with Richard Milligan. And I think I was his first client. And he was explaining this to me. And I'm like, hey, man, all I know is I need to do something different, right? Like, I don't know what I'm signing up for, but I just know like this cold calling and I'm hiring people that I don't even like sometimes. And I need to do something different. So I'm willing to try anything. Like I'll try anything. Well, fast forward, we're still working together. We're still, doing projects and collaborating together. And that for me is for all the leaders out there that aren't producing as much, or maybe not producing at all. If we took that as serious as we did our production, where would your leadership and your attractive leadership and your recruiting results be? Like you'd probably develop talent. It's such a 10x multiple that you wouldn't worry about the next team because your teams today are winning and growing. And so those were pivotal moments where I completely shifted how I've looked at leadership, and I'm still learning and still failing forward, still make mistakes. So I was like, look, I don't have this thing all figured out, but I'm better
you
than
never
I was.
Will, Brian. Just remember that we're never going to have it figured out.
Yeah, but it's better, right? So those are things that anyone could take that same action, make that same decision, and they could change the course in a year, look back and go, man, I'm glad I made that decision.
Wow. I love that so much. And it's actually interesting. At one point in my career, I realized that when you are at the head of a company, you have a lot of people saying yes to you. You have a lot of people agreeing with you. You have a lot of people feeding your ego and telling you how wonderful you are. And I remember at one pivotal point in my career, I finally said, you know what? I need to challenge myself to actually go outside of the mortgage industry. And I'm going to force myself to interact with other top level people outside of, they don't know who I am. They don't know what I've done. We don't speak mortgage, right? For the purpose of a couple of things. Number one, to listen. To number two, learn how to effectively communicate. And number three, understand different leadership styles because it is different in outside of our particular industry. And I got to tell you, I learned so much getting outside, let's just call it even outside of our comfort zone. I mean, we can speak mortgage and we can all get in a room and feel really confident in what we do. But the lessons that we learn by having that coach, by going outside of our industry, that really is what separates this level to the highest level. So kudos to you for recognizing that and for learning that and partnering. That proximity, listen, I have a whole thing about flying with eagles versus hanging out with pigeons. And that has nothing to do with experience levels or any of that. I love lifting people up is like my jam. I mean, I love taking, the new to the industry. It's more of there's a difference. There could be a crowd of pigeons of people that they're literally just complaining about everything, and it's always a negative, and it's always, the challenge instead of the opportunity. That's a pigeon. It has nothing to do with the rest of it. And there's a difference. When you're soaring with eagles, it is a very different level. And that is that support and that learning from each other. And that's why masterminds, I mean, that has been around for hundreds of years, right? Of the power of masterminding and combining different opinions and different perspectives and coming together. I mean, actually, give me your thoughts about that, because I know you're into that kind of stuff too. Should
Oh,
people be part of things like that?
I'm gonna give you a different answer you probably expect, but if you haven't
Okay.
read Napoleon Hill,
Yeah,
Think and Grow
I
Rich,
was thinking exactly
and I,
that was where I got it from.
I
Yep.
and here's what I would say. I'm gonna challenge some people, and this is just my approach. It's out of love, but some people need to go back and actually reread it. I've found that people say they have read a book, like I could say Extreme Ownership. I could say something about the 7 Habits. Might be time to revisit some of those because there's some timeless wisdom within them. And Laura, and I was hit with this last week, as one of the presentations I was giving, I was talking about how to win friends and influence people.
Oh, yeah.
Right. We're talking about this. And by the way, it's almost 100 years old.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sharing that. There's new versions out and all this stuff. And I'm like, great. Who can give me one principle, like one thing from the book that they learned that you're applying today? Oh, oh. So all the hands go up when it's like, hey, do you know this book? Have you read it before? Yeah. And then imagine it's like, can you tell me anything? And it's like, so go back and read some of these books. That would be my challenge in the leadership piece. And then my answer on the masterminding is you need to make the decision that you're going to commit to a group for at least a year would be my advice. And if you're looking for a silver bullet, or like you're going to walk in the room, you're going to leave and your life is just going to magically unfold, like you're just going to be around cool people that are smarter and more successful, and it's just going to rub off, like there'll be a little bit, like 10% of that you'll get. The 90% you got to do the work, man. And I will tell you what I have done, and I'll just give you the practicality, like tactics, is out of those masterminds, and there's one that I'm a part of that's a good, I think it's 60 people, very high level entrepreneurs, faith-based. However, there's 6 of us out of the 60. So it's kind of an interesting number. I just thought about that. So 10% of them,
10%.
we have a text thread, and we're more engaged than others because me going deep with 60 people and them being the people that I can help, and like be very intentional about there are people in that room, oftentimes not the speakers, by the way. I would just tell you that that's another quick little tip is those people in the room that are paying money, they're hungry for growth and development, and they have skills and experience you don't have. And the opposite's true. You may be able to help mentor them. So I'd say you've got to be able to commit. And a rule of thumb, I'll tell you when my best years of growth have happened, Laura, when I look back, I can tangibly, because I love to reverse engineer stuff. Like to me, I'm like, how did I create success? How did this loan officer create success? Like, let's break down the film, like in sports, and go, what did you do? Like leading up to the game, leading up to the match. What did you do during the game? Like what was different? Well, what I found is this sweet spot of about 10% of your gross income, by the way, not net, your gross income, when you invest that in you, your personal growth, your development, your masterminds, your coaching, those were the years that I can literally look and go, wow, those were my best years. And so it just gave me framework for going, look, even today, I'm nervous. I'm like, man, I'm going to write this check. I'm going to join this group. I'm going to pay for this coach. I'm like, but I look back and go, man, there's just success, and success leaves clues. And I go, that's just been part of my growth and success. And I watch my friends, and I'll just say some of them for 10 years, and they're in the same spot, repeating the same year. And they're like, man, I don't know why things are different. Like, business is hard, recruiting's difficult and all this. And I'm going, yeah, man, because you're doing the same things you've done year after year. So
expecting a different result, right?
Insanity.
Exactly. The definition. That's exactly right.
Decide, go all in on it. And at the end of a year, if you join the right masterminds, and again, if people want to know, like there's lots of them, if I can help, I'll be glad, because there are plenty of them out there. But if you do that for a year and you can look back and say, I did the work, success will not escape you. It just won't. So that's my tip,
I mean,
man.
that just reminds me, speaking of books, like I love Tim Grover. Like I love his Relentless and Winning. And, when you hear him say, winning is always going around you, right? And it's all depends on the work you're doing as to whether it's going to tap you on the shoulder and attach to you, right? Because if you're not ready and you're not doing the work, it's just going to go by and go over to the next guy. It's going to attach to him or her. So you have to do the work, right? It doesn't work that way that you show up at the mastermind and there you go. Everything's all good, right? You got to
No.
put in the work. So thank you for sharing that. That's awesome. All right. So, Brian, you're very well known for building high performing teams and, of course, cultures rooted in trust and purpose. So, what's your secret to identifying that potential and those leaders and helping them rise to their fullest potential?
Hmm. I'll go back to my sports days. And I'll say, as a soccer player, what I found was interesting is if you would judge people as they came to tryouts, right? In college, I played 4 years at Memphis, and you'd see new classes coming in, seniors graduating, and all that. What was interesting to me is it wasn't always the most talented player that was the most successful over those 4 years. It was the player that did the extra work. It was the player that was the most coachable. It was the player that recognized their gaps. And often, remember, even for me, is like having to put on more muscle, having to go out and train extra and take shots, because I was a goalkeeper. It's like I would come early, I would stay late. And even in my junior and senior year, our coach at that time was a little bit younger. He would stay after. And when I wouldn't have players, I'd be like, hey, Richie, will you stay and just take some shots? And I was always willing to just do more, because there were things I couldn't change, right? I couldn't change my height as a goalkeeper. I was a shorter goalkeeper. I couldn't change my frame, like how I was built. Like, that's just how I was built. I was built as a left-footed player, so I had to work on my right foot to be equally as good. I had to work on having to be able to jump really well. And I use this a lot too, is like the Peyton Mannings and the Tom Bradys of the world. If you study those guys, those were the people I wanted to be like on a soccer field. Of they may not have been the most athletic. Like, they didn't win anything at the combine, like on strength, speed, agility, but they figured out their game was up here.
Yep.
And so I share all that because I think in business, we can take a lot of lessons from that. And when you're looking for high performers, I would go back, and I was actually talking about this last week with a team. It was really fascinating. And they were asking me about who they should be looking for. They like to hire people just fresh out of college, maybe 4 years or less. And I asked them, I said, well, if you look at your team today, could you tell me the 4 or 5 traits and characteristics of your top performers? Let's break them down. Fast forward, they couldn't. And that's okay. They could tell me a little bit, but I said, what if we actually looked at their routines? Where did they come from? Did they overcome adversity? Did they play sports? Did they have something in a sorority or fraternity? Did they serve in the student council? Did they serve at their church? Like, did they do mission work? Like, guys, we gotta know that, what I call targeted avatar, so well that if we were to meet the person, we go, that's my person. That's my person. And they're so well defined. In the same time, Laura, you need to know who's not for you.
Right.
And I will just tell you, I have learned in my world is the piece about integrity for certain people that will say one thing, but they do another. I've also learned that are people that are looking for the cheapest price. They want the highest comp. They don't care about the rest of the team members. They're willing to run over and speak harshly to operations, for example. Like, they're just not good teammates, right? And I think about that in soccer is like, if anybody ever had that issue on the soccer field, we had ways of dealing with them, right? Like, we would take that aside.
Right.
But the reality is, a lot of those players, a lot of them never came around. It was a very small percentage that changed. And I think about this in recruiting is we look for what we call potential. But if that potential doesn't align up with your core values and really what you stand for, there's certain things that are non-negotiable. Right. I think that's where I fell into that trap earlier. And I would encourage anybody listening to this is, if you're recruiting, get so clear on your targeted avatar of what are your values, what are your standards within your team, who are the people that have performed well with you and around you. And I look back, Laura, we were doing this exercise the other day, is who have I helped get promoted or grow their biggest team in their career? Like, where was I a part of the story? Like, they did the work, but where was I a part of it? Because I go, if I can find another person like Laura, right, or like Joe over here, whoever, 100%. And go, this is them, this is where they were. And I can also then share that story. So when I'm talking to you going, hey, I had someone just like you. Here's where they were. Their production was here. They were struggling in this area. Here's what we did. Here was the outcome, right? So I was actually sharing this on a post, was proof over promise is the new recruiting. Proof over promise. And Alex Hormozy said this a year ago, and it's just stuck with me. And I started going back and just documenting, where's my proof?
Yeah.
Where are the people that I've helped get promoted, lead the largest teams they've done? And while some of them may give me credit, some may not, that's okay. I know the parts I was involved in, and I know I can replicate it because I've done that at several companies. And I look and go, now that's who I'm looking for. I'm looking for that next leader that's coachable, they have a growth mindset, they have high integrity. And also this last one I've really been looking at is what's their life outside of the office? Like if they're married, their kids, their health and their fitness, their faith potentially, they're like, where are they contributing outside of mortgage? Because this game, if you just do mortgage, you're playing way too small. I'm just going to say it. And it is a way bigger game, I believe, that God's put you on the earth to play. The mortgage is just the vehicle to help you serve people and then go take those resources and go do bigger things. That's my belief. And I want to be around other people that want to do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I just flew back from a speaking event in California, and I spent 7 hours, no joke, Brian, no joke. Okay. So we were delayed 2 hours, and then it was a 5 hour flight back. So I spent 7 hours with a 32-year-old young woman that we just happened to start having a conversation. And this young woman actually, I'll share this with you. Her mission is to become the Oprah of fitness. She was a bodybuilder. She was very, very big influencer on Instagram. She also is brilliant. She has a master's degree in multiple things. She's gone to law school. She's a director at a nonprofit, a very large nonprofit in New York City. And we spent 7 hours going through what does it take to be able to have a a fulfilling full life, from the work you do to your family, to your faith, to your community, to all of that. And as I'm sitting here, again, 7 hours, I mean, that's a long time to spend with someone. Sometimes it takes almost someone from an outside to remind you how much of an impact you can have on others. And I've said to her, one of my greatest accomplishments in life is the people that I took from their beginning stage in the mortgage industry that are now C-level executives at companies, or they've been so successful that they have changed the generational wealth for multiple generations of generosity that will happen in abundance in their families, right? And as I'm saying this, I'm thinking to myself, how many times do we get caught up in the grind of what we do that we forget how much of a positive impact we have in the work that we do and the people that we're able to work with and develop and move on? And so everything you just said, it really gives so many of us something to think about, because there is so much more and bigger than what we do, but the work that we do touches and touches and touches and expands and ripples into it. And I will say it, say it loud and proud, we are blessed to be in our industry. You know how blessed we are? I don't care what cycle we're in, we are still extremely blessed.
Yes.
So thank
Amen.
you so much for sharing your unbelievable wisdom with all of us. I truly appreciate you taking the time. And of course, you are a phenomenal follow. So for anyone that isn't following Brian, I mean, please, where have you been? You have to follow Brian. And of course, how can they find you, Brian?
I hang out a ton on LinkedIn, and people have probably seen that. I've been on there 20 years. It's my first social media platform. It's the only one we could have when I was at Wells at the bank. And so find me there, or Instagram. I spend time there, and it's just at the Brian Covey. Like, it's super simple, right? Because someone had my name. So I put drop me a note. I always ask this, Laura, like, if something resonated, something touched you, or you have a question, I'm a real person. I respond to my DMs and stuff. Like, just hit me up, tell me what I can be doing. Or if something landed with you and you're like, man, this was great, I needed to hear that, please let me know too, because that's just good for us. I know we share things, and I'm like, I don't know what lands and doesn't unless someone shares it.
Appreciate you. Thank you for all that you do. Continue to shine brightly, and we wish you all the best.
Thank you, my friend.